Thank you, Robert, so much for doing this presentation. Thank you for your leadership in this area. I'm the first Asian board member for the National Coalition for Mental Health Recovery, where Dan Fisher is one of the leaders of this group. And I'm a psychiatric survivor because of 988, the National Suicide Hotline, and I've shared my story with Mad Women in the Attic, and I do plan on sharing my story with Mad in America
That'd be
as well.
fantastic.
Yeah,
Can I
so
say one thing? Personal stories have such impact. We've been reviewing the science, but there's nothing better than personal stories like, yeah, I got into the psychiatric mall and look what happened to me. And then maybe if I got out, what happened to me. Just want to emphasize the importance of
yes, because I've actually been the poster child for the California mental health movement when it was called Each Mind Matters. And so I've been a mental health advocate for over 10 years. And, being on this journey has also caused me to have a lot of rifts with my own family to the point where my parents almost wanted to disown me. And I've had trials and tribulations. I mean, life is rough for everyone. And but I guess the one thing I wanted to ask you was, how do you think we could bridge the gap between our relationships with like the American Psychiatric Association and all these big pharmaceutical industries? Like, do we need to like protest their conferences, or do we like, because I have a Taiwanese friend from grade school who is a psychiatrist, and every now and then I'll text him and I'll ask him, "Hey, do you know of this person or that person?" And like, Dr. Yosef, or people who are educating others about like tapering off these psychiatric medications. What can we do as individuals with lived experiences to help bridge the gap of so that we can be like Laura Delano and, like, and yeah, I think there's just so much education that needs to be done.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a really important question. And just to go back with the riff with families, I hear this all the time. And the problem is because the families are rooted in the conventional narrative. This is what the doctors say. So if this is what the doctors say, they're the experts, not you, even though it's your own life and you should have agency in your own life. But that's the problem. And I've seen this over and over again. And it also tells how that just adds to the fact that the parents have been placed in a narrative that isn't true. It not only does it hurt you naturally, but it hurts your ability to be with your family and to be with others. You get isolated and that sort of thing. So it's a cruel thing to what happens. And it takes a great deal of strength to break away from that. So you ask what we can do. Well, Mad in America, in essence, was set up to foster a new narrative. And you do that by telling stories, okay? And again, I think personal stories are so powerful, especially personal stories powered with that are paired with a knowledge of the scientific literature, because that can be very convincing. And I will say this, on the one hand, I think psychiatry is hopeless as a medical discipline because they've put all their you know in all their things in one basket. We prescribe drugs in essence, okay? Oh, well, we shock people, but basically we do these biological things, okay? So as a medical discipline, it becomes really hard for them to say that, oh, our drugs are causing more harm than good. Because if they say this, what happens to them? This is what they do. They prescribe drugs. So as a guild, it's really hard. And at the top of the guild, we have individuals who frankly have prospered. They've gotten money from drug companies. They're on prestigious things in academia, and there's research money flowing into their schools. So they are so compromised trying to defend this, okay? This general drug-based form of care. However, I do know many psychiatrists, of course, who are got into this for good reasons. They are empathic human beings. They want to see their patients get better. Now, they're sort of trained not to listen to their patients, but because the patients are seen as not having good insight. But there are people that are coming along, okay? And so you can, and the narrative has switched actually within the psychiatric establishment to like, okay, the chemical imbalance didn't pan out, and yeah, our outcomes really aren't so good. Now they're not willing to admit they're doing harm, but that narrative is changing. So what can we do? We tell our story publicly. We make the science known publicly. What you're doing, Emily, is absolutely so impactful. It's just, and you know that of course Dan Fisher's been doing this forever, but this is it's this. Listen, do you know why I wrote Anatomy of an Epidemic or Mad in America? Because I got on the phone with David Oakes and he challenged the conventional narrative. David Oakes was the founder of Mind Freedom. So that's an example how a voice that comes from people with lived experience can really have a big impact on you. Because right away, and now, you know, just to finish this, I don't go on too long. When David started saying, we hate these drugs, okay? And you should see these drugs, you know, they shrink our brains and stuff like this. And so then I called up the experts and I said, you know, I just talked to some people and they don't like these drugs. So what did they tell me? Oh, that's because they don't know they're ill. They lack insight into their illness. Now, as a reporter, I have two choices at this moment. I can just go along with the experts, okay? Or I can see that is a statement someone in power makes about someone who is powerless. And they rob them of their own voice and their own authenticity as authors of their own lives. Okay, so I had a natural inclination to believe those who are challenging the powerful, and that's why I wrote Mad in America. In essence, David Oakes said, "Go, you do your own research and see what you find." And I'm telling this story to tell you how powerful the voice is of people with lived experience. It changes things. So kudos for you. Congratulations. It takes a lot of bravery to speak out, but that's what you're doing, and that's making a difference.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Bob. And thanks for the question, Emily.